And what this guy did is disgusting. I don't think there's a person alive, a man or a woman, especially women, who are not going to hate this guy.
Diddy's sentencing shocked the entire world, but not for the reasons you'd think, because according to ex-mob bosses, what just happened in that courtroom is nothing short of a joke. Michael Franzese, one of the most famous former mobsters alive, said it best. Guys got life sentences for less than this. And he's not lying. While regular men rot behind bars for crimes half as bad, Diddy just walked out with 50 months. A sentence that insiders say will be cut down to less than 2 years once you count credit time and special programs. And the craziest part, even the mob, the same people who built their reputations on power, money, and crime, want nothing to do with him. Former gangsters are saying Diddy violated the one rule even they live by: you don't hurt women. They're calling his behavior disgusting, beyond criminal, and a disgrace to the culture. But this isn't just about Diddy's crimes, it's about how he escaped real punishment. From his rumored federal cooperation to whispers of a pardon deal with Trump, every move Diddy made was planned to protect himself long before he ever faced a judge. So tonight, we're breaking down why ex-mobsters, feds, and even Suge Knight are all saying the same thing: that Diddy didn't beat the system. The system worked for him, because when men who once ran the mafia say Diddy got off easy, you have to ask, who's protecting him? When former mobsters start speaking out against you, that's when you know your reputation's done. Because even in the criminal underworld, and a world built on loyalty, silence, and power, there were still rules. And according to ex-mob bosses, Diddy broke every single one. Michael Franzese, once one of the most powerful figures in the Colombo crime family, went public with his disgust. He said what Diddy did wasn't just illegal, it was beyond criminal. In his words, "We never disrespected women. We didn't touch family. If you did, you were finished." Franzese and other ex-mobsters made it clear, even among killers, that kind of behavior would have gotten you dealt with. In their world, you could hustle, you could fight, you could run rackets, but you didn't brutalize women. That was a line you didn't cross. And now they say Diddy's about to learn that same rule behind bars. Mob insiders predict he'll have a target on his back inside federal prison. They're calling his sentence a disgrace, saying he's not just hated by the public, but by the inmates themselves. He'll be lucky if money keeps him alive, one ex-enforcer said, because in there, guys don't forget. The last time Diddy was locked up, reports say he was attacked by other inmates, and this time, things are expected to get even worse. Former gangsters are warning that because of Diddy's past, the violence, the women, the arrogance, he'll have to pay for protection just to survive. He's gonna find out that fame don't mean anything inside. Another ex-mob member said, "In there, respect is earned, not bought." They've made it clear, in their world, Diddy would have never lasted. Because if the mafia, the same people once feared across America, are saying you crossed the line, that's not just a bad look. That's a death sentence for your legacy. And as one mobster put it, he might have fooled the system, but he can't fool the streets. When the judge announced Diddy's sentence, 50 months in federal prison, the reaction was instant. Shock, disbelief, and outrage flooded the internet. But the people who were angriest weren't just fans or victims. They were ex-mobsters who've seen how the system really works. Former crime boss Michael Franzese told viewers in a recent interview that the punishment was, quote, "a complete joke." He said, "Guys got life sentences for less than what Diddy did." He's right. In the world these men came from, a single racketeering charge could mean decades behind bars. But Diddy, who was accused of trafficking, violence, and extortion, got barely 4 years, and might only serve 2. That's because, according to insiders, Diddy's lawyers have already negotiated him into a low-security prison in New Jersey, one that includes a rehab program that can shave off an extra year of time, meaning, by the time the headlines die down, he could be walking free again. Even worse, ex-mob figures say the leniency sends a dangerous message. Former Gambino associate Anthony Raggiano Jr. told an interviewer, "If this guy was one of us, he'd never see the streets again." He compared Diddy's sentence to those given to mafia members in the 1980s, men who were doing 25 years for conspiracy and gambling, not violence or abuse. Fans online echo that sentiment. One viral comment read, "He's not crying because he's sorry. He's crying because he got caught." And they're not wrong. Courtroom sketches show Diddy sobbing as the verdict was read. But according to Gene Deal, those tears weren't about guilt. They were about power. Gene said, quote, He cried because he realized for once he couldn't buy his way out. But even with that sentence, ex-mobsters say Diddy still did buy his way out, just in a different way. They believe his light punishment didn't come from mercy, it came from cooperation. As Suge Knight bluntly put it months before sentencing, Puffy's had federal ties for years. Anybody else would have been cooked, and that one statement might explain everything. Because if Diddy really did have connections inside the system, his short sentence isn't just lucky, it's proof that something bigger was going on behind the scenes. Long before the judge read his sentence, people inside the industry were already saying it. Diddy's been working with the feds, and when you look at how light his punishment was, it's hard to argue against it. Months before sentencing, Suge Knight made a bold prediction from prison. He said on camera, quote, "Puffy's had strong ties with the government for years. Anybody else would have been cooked." Now, after seeing how Diddy's case played out, that comment feels like a prophecy. Because according to both former mobsters and legal analysts, everything about Diddy's sentencing screams federal cooperation. The math doesn't add up. The charges were serious, the evidence was public, and yet the outcome was soft. Too soft. Ex-Mafia captain Michael Franzese explained that when a defendant gets that kind of deal, it usually means one thing. You don't get that kind of break unless you gave them something big in return. So what could Diddy possibly have that the feds wanted? According to insiders, he had information, and a lot of it. They believe Diddy fed law enforcement intel on people in his circle, possibly including other industry figures tied to old cases, even whispers of the long, cold Tupac investigation. The same names that have haunted hip-hop for decades could now be part of his bargaining chip. Former gangsters pointed out another red flag: Diddy's behavior before the sentencing. While most defendants lay low, Diddy was doing the opposite. He launched what Suge Knight called a media campaign, smiling for cameras, releasing motivational videos, and pretending to be untouchable. Suge said, quote, "That man was acting like he was running for president. You don't do that unless you already know the outcome." And maybe he did, because when you look at the timing, his lawyer's already arranging a transfer to a low-security facility, discussions of a rehab program that would cut his time. It's clear Diddy was prepared for this, almost like he knew exactly how far it would go, and no further. Even some ex-law enforcement officials admit off record that Diddy's sentence doesn't line up with the case file. They believe someone high up wanted it kept quiet, that the real story isn't about his crimes, but about the deals made to keep other names out of the headlines. And that's why, when the news broke that Donald Trump confirmed Diddy personally asked him for a pardon, people stopped laughing. Because now it looks like Diddy wasn't just talking to lawyers, he was talking to presidents. Just when people thought Diddy's case couldn't get any stranger, President Donald Trump dropped a bombshell. He confirmed that Diddy personally asked him for a pardon. During a recent press appearance, Trump said, quote, "I have a lot of people asking me for pardons. Puff Daddy has asked me for a pardon." That single sentence changed everything, because it meant Diddy wasn't just planning for a light sentence. He was preparing his escape plan long before the verdict was even read. Insiders say Diddy's legal team, led by attorney Mark Agnifilo, began reaching out months ahead of sentencing. According to one report, Diddy allegedly told his lawyer, "Go tell Trump I deserve a pardon." When questioned later, Agnifilo refused to comment directly, saying any decision on pardons would have to come from the president himself. But here's where it gets interesting. Federal sources claim that Diddy's camp was already aware of what was coming. He allegedly knew about the indictment before it hit the news, suggesting that someone inside tipped him off. That's how he had time to prepare his PR team, hire lobbyists, and line up potential political favors before the first court date. And while Diddy publicly played the role of the victim, crying in court, claiming remorse, behind the scenes, he was pulling strings to negotiate his way out of prison entirely. Former mobster Anthony Ruggiano Jr. reacted to Trump's revelation by saying, "That's not something a regular guy could do. Only someone with serious government connections has that kind of access." Even Suge Knight doubled down afterward, saying, "You can't be tight with the feds, ask for a pardon, and still call yourself a gangster." What's even more suspicious is that the White House never denied Trump's statement. When reporters pressed them, a senior official simply said they had no comment on speculation. In political language, that's as close as it gets to a yes. So now the question becomes, why would a sitting president even consider a pardon for Diddy? Was it just celebrity influence or something deeper? Because if Diddy really had dirt on the right people, in business, politics, and entertainment, That pardon request might not have been desperation. It might have been a reminder to those in power of what he could expose if they didn't protect him. And that would explain why, instead of decades behind bars, Diddy walked away with 4 years and could be out in a half that. As one ex-mobster bluntly put it, "This ain't justice. This is power at work." When Diddy's sentencing was announced, even veteran prosecutors were scratching their heads because something didn't add up. The charges didn't match the crimes, and according to former mobsters and legal insiders, that's the biggest red flag of all. Former crime boss Michael Franzese broke it down in simple terms during an interview. There's no such thing as a one-man RICO. You can't run a criminal enterprise by yourself. He's right. Under RICO law, the government must prove a pattern of criminal activity with multiple people working together. Yet in Diddy's case, dozens of employees, assistants, and party organizers who were clearly part of his operations somehow walked away without a single charge. Ex-Gambino associate Sammy the Bull Gravano agreed, saying, "You don't get that kind of deal unless everyone around you made one first." And that's exactly what seems to have happened. Court insiders revealed that at least 3 witnesses in Diddy's trial, all former staff, were granted full immunity in exchange for their cooperation. That includes Christina Karorum, Diddy's alleged second-in-command, who was reportedly responsible for recruiting women for his private events. She testified. She admitted involvement, but she was never charged. Former federal agents explained that kind of immunity deal isn't random, it's strategy. One insider said, quote, "They used everyone around him to build the story they wanted, not the truth." That same pattern, protecting witnesses, hiding names, and narrowing charges, is what mob veterans recognize as a controlled prosecution. The kind where the government only shows the parts of the case that won't cause political fallout. And Michael Franzese pointed out something else. If Diddy really ran his empire like an organization, then the feds must have had to give immunity to the entire inner circle to keep their narrative clean. They don't want another Epstein situation, Franzese said. Too many names, too many deals. So they keep it focused on one guy, Diddy. That's why you'll never hear about the unindicted co-conspirators, the insiders who allegedly helped cover everything up. They've already cut their deals, signed their NDAs, and disappeared. Even Gene Deal noticed the same thing, saying, Diddy ain't the only one guilty. He just the only one they needed to take the fall. So when you look at Diddy's case, the missing charges, the sealed names, the immunity deals, one truth stands out. The system didn't protect justice. It protected the people who could expose it. And while those insiders walked free, Diddy was handed a light sentence designed to end the story, not uncover it. But the problem is, stories like this never really end, especially when a man like Diddy still knows too much. Now that Diddy's officially behind bars, the big question everyone's asking is, how long will he actually last inside? According to prison insiders and ex-mobsters, Diddy's about to face a kind of justice no courtroom can hand down, because inside those walls, money and fame don't mean protection, they mean targets. Reports have already confirmed that Diddy was attacked once while held at the Metropolitan Detention Center. One inmate allegedly tried to shank him, and correctional officers stopped it just in time. But what's shocking is that Diddy didn't want to report the attack. His lawyers told the court he stayed silent because, quote, he didn't want anyone to think he was scared. But fear is exactly what's following him now. Ex-Mafia captain Michael Franzese said in a podcast, "A guy like Diddy, he's a trophy in there. Someone gets to him, it makes them a legend." And former Gambino associate Anthony Ruggiano Jr. agreed, adding, "If he was in one of our prisons with his charges, he wouldn't last a week." The reason? The crimes. Diddy's reputation for violence and his treatment of women make him one of the most hated types of inmate, even among hardened criminals. You can do a lot of dirt in prison and people will overlook it, Franzese said, but not that. That's a death sentence. That's why Diddy's lawyers are pushing hard for him to be sent to a low-security prison in New Jersey, one that offers drug rehab programs and minimal supervision. If he's accepted, it could cut off a full year of his sentence. But even that's not guaranteed. Former federal corrections officers say those programs reject anyone with a history of violence, and Diddy's record is far from clean. If he's denied, he'll serve his time in a standard facility, surrounded by men who see him as nothing but a payday. Inside sources say he's already trying to use his money to buy protection, offering favors and commissary cash to trusted inmates. It's the same playbook wealthy convicts have always used, from Bernie Madoff to corrupt CEOs, and it might work for a while. But ex-mobster Sammy the Bull Gravano says it won't save him forever. Money buys friends, but it don't buy respect, and respect is what keeps you alive in there. Diddy's legal team is painting a calm picture, saying he's focused on family and rehabilitation, but behind the scenes, his allies are worried, because even if he gets through his time quietly, there's another danger waiting: the men and women he betrayed to save himself. As one ex-inmate put it best, the feds might protect him now, but they can't protect him forever. No one reacted to Diddy's sentencing harder or louder than Gene Deal. The man who once took bullets for Diddy has made it clear he feels no sympathy for what's happening now. After seeing the courtroom sketches of Diddy crying during sentencing, Gene didn't hold back. He said in an interview, quote, "I don't feel bad for him. God is good. He made him and he broke him." Gene described the moment as pure karma, the universe finally catching up after decades of arrogance, manipulation, and betrayal. "This is somebody I would have given my life for," Gene said. "And he tried to have me taken out. Now he's sitting there crying in court, and I'm smiling. Because that's God showing him who's really in charge." He also said Diddy's tears weren't remorse, they were fear. "He ain't crying for the victims," Gene told viewers. "He's crying because he finally got caught." And the numbers prove why Gene feels that way. With 50 months on paper, Diddy's already credited for 14 months served, plus reductions for good behavior. That means he could walk free in just 24 to 30 months. Gene mocked that outcome too, saying he got off like a fat rat in a cheese factory. But his anger goes beyond the light sentence. It's personal. Gene reminded people that during the height of Bad Boy's success, he tried to get Diddy to treat people right, to move differently. Instead, he says, Diddy turned paranoid, convinced Gene was plotting against him. "He told people to get at me," Gene recalled, "to take my life, because I was trying to make him be right by people." So now, watching Diddy's empire collapse, Gene says it feels like divine payback. "You reap what you sow," he said. "He hurt too many people for too long. God don't let that slide forever." And while Gene's tone might sound harsh, there's something almost prophetic in the way he speaks, because in his mind, this isn't the end of Diddy's story, it's the beginning of his real punishment. "Jail ain't the worst thing for him," Gene said. "Living with the truth is." For Gene, this isn't revenge, it's balance. A man who spent decades acting untouchable is finally being touched by reality, and for the first time, there's nothing he can buy, threaten, or manipulate to get out of it. As Gene put it, "This ain't me hating, this is the truth catching up." While most people see Diddy's sentencing as the end of a long, ugly story, ex-mobsters and industry insiders say it's just the beginning, because the real danger now isn't what Diddy did, it's what he knows. Former mob boss Michael Francesi put it bluntly during a live interview. "Diddy knows too much. That's why he's dangerous. Not because of what he did, but because of what he could say." And he's not exaggerating. For decades, Diddy was at the center of everything: record labels, politics, secret parties, and celebrity scandals. If even a fraction of the rumors are true, he holds enough secrets to take down half of Hollywood. One ex-federal investigator told reporters, "If Diddy starts talking, it won't just be music executives in trouble. It'll be billionaires and politicians." Even Suge Knight, who's been warning about Diddy for years, said this in a prison phone interview. "He knows where all the bodies are buried. Literally and figuratively, if he talks, a lot of people are done." Suge wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was referencing the Tupac Shakur case, which has resurfaced in light of Diddy's cooperation rumors. Suge reminded people that Keith D, the man arrested for Tupac's murder, publicly said that Diddy offered money to have both Tupac and Suge killed. Keith D said the money came from Puffy, Suge said. Everybody knows it, so if they really wanted him, that would have been the moment. But that moment never came. Diddy was never charged, which is why so many insiders believe the feds have been protecting him, not because he's innocent, but because he's useful. Another ex-mob enforcer commented on a podcast, "The feds don't protect saints. They protect assets. If he's still breathing, it's because they need him." And maybe that's why Diddy's case feels so incomplete. The missing co-conspirators, the light sentence, the rumored pardon, it all points to one thing. The government wanted him under control. not behind bars forever. Because if Diddy really did start naming names, this wouldn't stop at entertainment. It would reach into politics, law enforcement, and the corporations funding it all. Even Gene Deal believes this story is far from over. He said in his latest live stream, "They ain't scared of Diddy the man, they scared of Diddy the evidence." And that's why, as one ex-mobster said, he's not in danger because he's guilty. He's in danger because he knows the truth. When Diddy's 50-month sentence was handed down, many saw it as justice. But ex-mobsters, insiders, and even former lawmen say it was the opposite, a cover-up disguised as closure. Former crime boss Michael Franzese explained it best. "In our world, if you did what Diddy did, you'd never see daylight again. But when the system wants to protect you, it doesn't bury you, it hides you." And that's exactly what seems to have happened. The government paraded Diddy's arrest as proof that no one is above the law. But when the dust settled, the punishment didn't fit the crimes, and the evidence that could have exposed other powerful names quietly vanished. Ex-prosecutors and mob veterans agree that this case was never about Diddy's guilt. It was about containing the damage. Former Gambino enforcer Anthony Ruggiano Jr. said on air, "Cooperate and they'll let you go. That's the real message here." He called Diddy's sentence a commercial for cooperation. Even Gene Deal echoed that thought. He said, "They didn't just give him mercy, they gave him a pass, because he's protecting people way bigger than himself." And the pattern proves it. Witnesses were given immunity. Executives were never charged. Files that could have been public were sealed. Every step of the process feels like it was scripted to make sure the story stopped with Diddy and no one else. Ex-mobsters see it as a chilling reminder that power protects power. They've lived it themselves, watching the system throw the small players in prison while the big ones make deals and disappear. And that's why Franzese said, "This case isn't a warning to criminals, it's a message to insiders. Keep your mouth shut and you'll walk." So yes, Diddy's in prison, but as insiders point out, he's in a camp-style facility, counting down less than 2 years before freedom. No high-security cell, no real accountability, just enough punishment to calm the headlines. Meanwhile, the people who partied with him, funded him, and helped him do it all are still out there, rich, powerful, and quiet. And maybe that's the real story, not how Diddy fell, but how many people were protected when he did. As Gene Deal said at the end of his last live stream, "They think it's over, but when he walks out that door, the truth's walking out with him." Because Diddy's sentencing might have ended the trial, but it didn't end the secrets. Diddy's officially behind bars, but the story doesn't feel finished. If anything, it feels like a chapter that ended too neatly. The sentence, the silence, the missing evidence, it all points to something bigger than one man's crimes. Former mobster Michael Franzese summed it up perfectly when he said, "Guys got life for less than this." And he's right. Countless men have spent decades in cells for smaller offenses, while Diddy, accused of trafficking, violence, and abuse, will likely walk free in under 2 years. That's not justice, that's power. And it's why even the mob is disgusted. They live by a code: loyalty, respect, no harm to women, rules Diddy shattered again and again. And when the same people who ran the mafia say you've crossed the line, you know you've fallen from something bigger than fame. Gene Deal calls it karma. He thought he was untouchable, Gene said, but even money can't stop God. The truth is, Diddy's sentence isn't the end of his story. It's the start of a much more dangerous one. Because when he gets out, he's walking back into a world filled with enemies, secrets, and people who would rather see him silent than free. And as one ex-mobster warned, the feds might have protected him now, but they can't protect him forever. So maybe this wasn't justice. Maybe it was a trade, a quiet deal to keep the machine running and the truth buried. But if there's one thing everyone agrees on, it's this: Diddy's story isn't over. It's just waiting for the next leak. Because no matter how long his sentence lasts, the fallout will last a lot longer. Do you think Diddy's short sentence proves he cut a deal with the feds? Or did the system just protect one of its own? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more deep dives into Hollywood's hidden truths.